You're listening to the Waypoint TV Podcast Network, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Hey everyone, this is Captain Steve Roger from Into the Blue TV. And as soon as I feel a little break from this heat, I know that hunting season's upon us. Actually, the first time I ever went hunting, a buddy took me. Wasn't my father or my grandfather. In fact, I took my father on his very first hunt. Well, Academy Sports and Outdoor Stores has everything to gear up for the field for less. Plus, you can shop a wide selection of ammo, shotguns, deer corn, rifle, feeder, game cameras, camo, and more from the brands you trust. Text HUNT24 to 22369 to take $20 off a $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping.
If you hunt enough, you learn the truth. What you seek speaks a language and knows it well. That's why every Primo's call for everything you hunt is made the right way. We sweat every detail so you get more out of every hunt, and nothing leaves our hand until we know it'll work in yours. Because we don't just make the world's best calls, we speak the language. Primos.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Harvesting Nature's Wild Fishing Game Podcast. Your host here, Justin Townsend, and I'm joined by my brother from another mother, Adam.
Hey guys.
I just try every time to make it awkward for you to say hello.
Make it difficult.
Yeah. I'm like, he doesn't know. So today, on today's episode, it's just going to be Adam and I chatting, but we're going to talk about, this is our final Cooking by Cut segment. We've essentially gone head to toe. We'll finish the toes up today. Big game animals. So pretty excited the fact that we were able to knock all these out. A lot of content we covered over the last year.
I don't know. It felt like even more than a year.
I feel like it's, let's see. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about the kidneys. We're going to talk about caul fat. We're going to talk about trotters. And we're going to talk about testes. And this is going to go pretty in-depth. The last section over the testes is going to get real interesting in their description of removing it from the animal. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. I got the date here.
I see our first one was May 2023, I think.
Our first Cooking by Cut? Oh, yeah, look at that. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been a year and a half.
So we've been going a year and a half, yeah.
Right? Roughly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And we have them all on the website now, too, if anyone wants to just see the whole series in one. That's right, isn't it? It's on the
it's on there. So, you drop down under podcast, and it says Cooking by Cut series. So we'll create some other tabs for the other ones we have up. We've got, Adam's Antler and Fin has its own little section. We've got the rookies, which will have its own section. And then coming up, next month, we'll be starting our first of what we're calling the Wild Kitchen. And so these are going to be like, instead of focusing on specific cuts, we're going to focus on like types of food, to really dig deep into how you can use wild game to make various types of dishes within a specific category. So for instance, we're the first one we're doing is like wild game sandwiches. So we'll talk about different types of game and different types of sandwiches and how you can go from basically having a, duck, dove, deer, pheasant, fowl, fish, whatever, and end up with a sandwich. So it'll be kind of cool. We'll talk a little bit more about recipes and stuff on that, but we'll kind of go on the culinary side. It'll be structured very similar to what we have here. But let's see. Outside of that, we are going to have our next episode is going to be the rookies, and then the following one with that we'll have our holiday gift guide. We were going to record that this week, but we had some technical difficulties, and so now we're moving forward. It's all right. It'll be midway through November. You get to get the holiday gift guide, some cool stuff we'll put together. We're going to try to do that one live, so keep an eye out on social media for that. And then let's see. As far as current events, we're in the middle of deer archery season here. I did a waterfowl opener for Maryland. They had a veteran active duty and youth weekend, so we went out for that with some friends and shot a bufflehead. I think it's bufflehead. Yeah, shot a bufflehead. I have a cool video on Instagram about plucking. I completely plucked it, but I followed like a 3-step method as far as like rough plucking and then dipping it in boiling water for like a minute and then stripping off the rest of the feathers and then taking the torch through afterwards and cleaning off the other feathers. Drew a lot of comments. Not a lot of people keep buffleheads. Some of those types of ducks they say are too fishy. I plucked it, had it brine for a day, and then I soaked it in a bit of water, just plain water to pull out some of the salt for a little bit, and then now I've actually got it dry aging in my fridge. So it's small. It's a small thing, but I spatchcocked it. I'm gonna roast it this evening. So we'll see how it turns out. Because you know me, always out to prove everybody wrong when they say you can't eat something. So especially those things were cool. They were everywhere too. So all right. So looking at that, Adam, what have you been up to? You've been a busy little beaver.
Yeah, I've been very busy lately. It's rifle season, deer rifle season here in Ontario. So I got out for a couple days. Saw some does, but I didn't have a doe tag, unfortunately. So I had to let them pass, even though they sat nice and broadside for me. But what can you do? So I went out for a few days, but I'm going to try to get out again. If not, then I'll switch over to bow after rifle season. To try to get something. And otherwise, I've been butchering for a local outfitter, so I'm kind of their resident butcher. So they're pulling in tons of deer, and I'm cutting them all up for everyone. So that's been pretty fun, but it's pretty tiring work. I haven't done the full-time butcher gig in a while, but I'm remembering the backaches and the shaking hands and everything that come with it too. So lots of respect for our buddy Adam Steele and all the hard work he always has to do, because it is hard work. I was thinking, you were saying the little diver ducks. I cooked up a merganser last year that everyone says isn't worth eating, and I thought it was pretty good. Took a couple steps to get the fishy flavors out, but I don't think it was quite as bad. I know that birds definitely vary in fishiness and strength or whatever, those diver ducks, but yeah, I don't know if, like, for people just say carte blanche that they're inedible is, like usual, ridiculous. Yeah.
It's kind of where I'm at. So we'll see. I'll report back on it. But another news I was going to say, this week was election week, which means everybody voted, obviously in president, but everybody voted on all the other state elections too. So in Florida, the Amendment 2 passed. Pretty stoked about that. That added the constitutional right to hunt and fish to Florida's constitution. So that was a big win. We've been very supportive of that. And then Proposition 127 in Colorado failed, which was good. That was the ban on mountain lion and bobcat hunting, as well as lynx, which you can't hunt anyway. But so both of those that failed, which was a big movement by hunters to get that pushed through. So kudos to the hunting community in Colorado and the broader hunting community for the support they put forward on that. Great to see those initiatives. Great to see that we can all band together and support something. I wish we were more supportive like that towards a lot of other things. I think we should maintain the momentum, and I've said it on here, and I'll say it again and everywhere else. Like, we should continue to push for this the our constitutional right to hunting and fishing. So I think that should be probably like statewide, or all the states, every state. So let's on those very positive notes, let's dive into talking about some kidneys. So we'll kind of pass back and forth, true fashion. So kidney. The kidneys are located inside the body cavity of the animal. They filter out the waste products in the blood and produce urine. Kidneys are located inside of the animal and are shaped like beans. That's where you get the name kidney beans from, because kidneys look like beans, beans look like kidneys. Some relationship they share there. They're reddish brown, purplish kind of ish, and they range in size from as thick of a thumb to the size of a closed fist, depending on the size of the animal. They'll also sometimes be encased in hunks of leaf lard inside the animal, which I actually saw. So this past weekend, my buddy Colin shot his deer, and we were picking through all the organs and pulled out the kidneys, and it had so much leaf fat inside of it that you had to like thumb through it in order to get to the kidneys, which I thought was pretty wild.
Yeah, you see that in domestic pigs big
Yeah.
time, but yeah, deer, that's a little
This
more
was
rare.
this was a pretty fatty deer, like all over. It had good leaf fat inside of it, which was great. I'm actually going to go collect some of that from Colin this evening to use for some culinary and bath product uses, I guess, a variety of mix. So how to remove the kidneys. So you're going to open up the animal. You'll remove the liver, which we've talked about in other episodes. Roll back to another Cooking by Cut episode if you don't remember how to remove the liver. You remove the stomach, the intestines, etc. And as we mentioned, you may see the chunks of white fat tucked up into the rib cage. So you're going to remove that fat to expose the kidneys. So it's going to be up and kind of towards the rear part, not all the way at the back, but more if you like visually halved the carcass, it would be towards the rear part. And then you either remove the kidneys by grasping them and giving them a sharp tug, or by cutting off the thin connective tissue holding it to the body. It is that simple. To remove, there's some steps you should take whenever you're preparing it, which I will pass over to Adam for the culinary history and the cooking.
Yeah, so kidneys have been, like most parts of the animal, have been eaten since ancient times. And there's actually been cooked kidneys found in Egyptian tombs that were unearthed, and they were left to help feed the deceased in the afterlife. So that must have been a pretty special dish back then, maybe one that was fit for royalty or something, kidneys. They're also mentioned, kidneys and kidney fat are both mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible. So it's been a thing for a long time. The one dish that most people probably recognize for kidneys is steak and kidney pie or steak and kidney pudding. And those dishes have been popular in England since at least the 1800s. There was even a poem written about them in 1875 by B.C. Stevenson and Arthur Sullivan.
Arthur.
Say it here.
Arthur Sullivan. Yeah.
Oh, you know him. Our old friends B.C. and Arthur. It says, "I've eaten as much as a man could eat. I've gone through a very remarkable feat. From the two-penny tart to the kidney pie, I swallowed as much as I could, have I." So they've been singing about kidneys even in the 1800s. A few famous dishes on top of the steak and kidney pie are deviled kidneys, which is an old Victorian dish of kidneys cooked with Worcestershire sauce, mustard, butter, cayenne pepper, salt, and black pepper. It's often served with toast. It's quite nice. A lot of different cultures have something called mixed grill, which is like different meats and organs kind of griddled together. There's like a British version, a Brazilian version, one called the Jerusalem mixed grill, which is usually made with chicken parts, but that's usually made in the Middle East and Israel. Also in China, the kidneys are often used in stir fries and in soups, which are often consumed more as a health tonic than like something for supper. So there's the Chinese see a lot of health benefits in kidneys. Kidneys, like liver, kidneys can be pretty strong in flavor. So when you're cooking them, they can benefit from a reduction in natural flavor, where most of the time we're trying to amplify the natural flavors in the wild meats we're getting. Kidneys can be a little overwhelming sometimes, so I don't mind, soaking them in salt water or doing something, making like a very piquant kind of sauce to kind of cover those flavors a little bit, just so you can enjoy them without being overwhelmed by them.
I'll tell you, talk about overwhelming. So a lot of plains tribes in North America would consume the kidneys raw, which... yeah.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah, liver as well. Liver and kidney raw. Just I don't know beyond that of like how it was prepared. If anybody knows, yeah, like write on in if you got some more info on how that was. Is it cut in strips? Is it just eating like an apple? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting experience, both in flavor and in texture too. Like the raw organs, that'd be a really interesting texture.
Yeah, I think, and even too, like acidity or ironness or any of the other sort of like, I'm trying to think like beyond just texture and flavor, even just like some of the chemical reaction you would get.
Yeah, I wonder how minerally it would be, or how sharp. Pretty interesting. Well, if you decide to cook it rather than eating it raw, I recommend a lot of people remove the thin membrane surrounding the kidneys. So it's just like a very see-through, super thin membrane. You can kind of just poke it with a sharp knife and like peel it right off. That will help keep your kidneys tender. And like heart, like liver, like a lot of things, like also like squid and octopus, which have kind of similar textures, and which is interesting too. Kidneys should be cooked fast or slow. Anything in between will probably leave you with a chewy, unappetizing kidney. So either to cook it fast, you can grill it, stir fry it, broil it, sear it, something like that, making sure the center remains a touch pink. Alternatively, you can cook it low and slow so that they eventually become tender and giving. Something in the middle, like I said, is just going to be chewy. So just like if you overcook your kidney, switch your recipe up for something that's like a long braise or something, and you'll be better off for that. How do you tend to do kidneys, Justin? Have you eaten them much?
I don't eat them as much, no. I do have some down in the freezer. I was just thinking about, I actually need to go through the last bit in my freezer and kind of create recipes for each one, and kidneys on there. So more to follow, but I think I like the way that you prepare them too, kind of like pan seared, pretty quick. Was a good way, or in like a good sauce, slow cooked too. Like, I mean, either way, they're good, not raw. I'll tell you.
Yeah, not quite. I think my favorite way so far has been, and I made this for a special project to work on too, but I'll give a tiny sneak peek. Something called the Chinese call, the translation is a little funny, but it's something like fire exploded kidneys or something like that. And they take strips of kidneys and they score with a really sharp cleaver. They'll score the kidneys in kind of a crosshatch, and then when they hit the heat, they kind of like buckle and create this almost like flower, this flower looking thing. It's like a really interesting looking piece of meat. And the really, so I tried my hand at it. I did it a couple times, and it's like I did it okay. But the really skilled Chinese chefs can make these beautiful, beautiful, artistic kind of kidneys. So you should definitely go look that up. It's pretty cool to watch just a Chinese master chef using a massive cleaver to cut these tiny little incisions on pieces of kidney. It's pretty cool. So either flour exploded kidneys or fire exploded kidneys.
Fire exploded.
Give that a go.
Huo bao yao huo. It's probably really bad. Szechuan dish. Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So I want to keep doing that and practicing my cleaver skills and trying to get up to a point where it looks really beautiful like they do.
It does look really pretty. I mean, I've seen the pictures that you did for that. It looks good. Looks good as well.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short. All right. So that wraps up the kidneys there. So let's move. We're going to move kind of quick because we've got these four topics to cover. Well, I think we're doing good. We'll talk about caul fat next. So caul fat is a type of visceral fat, which means it's not like intermuscular fat. It's a different type altogether. It's commonly called lace fat, omentum, crepine, or fat netting. And it's a thin web-like layer of fat that surrounds the internal organs, specifically the stomach and the intestines. Kind of like holds everything in there in a nice, neat little pouch. Wild animals often carry less of it just due to the fact that their diet and their active lifestyles keep them pretty lean, so you don't see a lot. But as into that buck that that Colin shot and I helped butcher a bit this weekend. There was a good amount of caul fat on there, and so it's pretty good. So how to remove it? So you want to locate it. I just mentioned where it's at. So it's usually pretty easy to identify. Oftentimes I see like hunters nick it with their blade as they're like cutting open. It's like the last barrier before you get to the internal organs. So sometimes it tears really easy too. I will tell you, I've seen people like pull the guts out of an animal, and then it kind of like has the grass and stuff stuck to it, which is really hard to get off once you have it. So once you have the guts and stuff exposed, you're going to start at one edge. So pick kind of the top, maybe up by the stomach or kind of by the intestines, and you start to kind of peel it away. You can use a combination of pulling with your hand while using the knife to kind of like separate it. But essentially you think that it like wraps all the way around. So you'll kind of separate horizontally and kind of peel it away vertically around the organs. So, and sometimes you can't get all of it. You get as much as you can, or sometimes it gets really thin in certain spots and tears. So just try to work with as much as you can. I mean, a little bit goes a long way, especially if you're wrapping like meatballs or burger patties or something. Like, you don't need big, huge chunks of it. But the more you have, like yardage, the better it is. But
I find that when I'm doing it, I like to spread my hand as wide as possible, like all my fingers as wide as possible, and kind of drape it over my hand as I'm removing it, just so it has a place to kind of stay and not get all tangled up. It kind of sticks to itself. It can get, like Justin said, it can get, if there's any leaves or grass or anything, it's going to stick directly to it. You'll never get it off again. And if it kind of drape it, keep it off the ground.
Yeah, if it gets any bile on it, toss it. You want to pack it separate from the meat and from the other organs and everything like that, because it absorbs whatever it touches pretty quickly. And I've had to toss. I brought some, had it, touch whatever, and then smelled it like weeks later after I thawed it out, and it like does not smell great. So I always keep a separate Ziploc bag, really for like heart, liver, kidneys, caul. They all kind of get their own little bags, so that you don't have to mix them with each other, because they all get kind of unique things that come out of them that you may not want to intermix. But you can also, it stores pretty well. You can rinse it off, pat it dry, lay it flat. Don't let it dry out, but you can put it in the fridge for a little bit, or you can put it in the freezer for like prolonged storage. Have you ever stored it? I was thinking about this. You know how we store like sausage casings in water? I wonder if you could store caul fat in water the same, like in the refrigerator for like a day or two. I wonder.
Probably.
I don't know. We'll have to experiment with that.
I'd imagine so, but I'm gonna have to try. I'm gonna have to check it out or try it out, because I haven't done that. Usually I keep it in the freezer. You can't keep it in the freezer for very long either, which is some mistake I've made a few times, because it's fat. It goes kind of rancid in the freezer much faster than most meat. So try to use it up within 2 months of freezing or something like that, and don't save it for the next year, because it's probably not going to taste or smell very good.
Yeah, I would add it to the use first list.
Just definitely
thinking overall about it.
What's your favorite hunting tradition? Is it the thrill of the early morning, the sound of the woods coming alive? My personal favorite, the smell as the seasons change. Who was it that first took you out on your first hunt? Maybe it was your dad, a grandparent, a good friend. Hunting season is more than just a time of year. You know this. It's a way of life passed down through generations. And now it is finally here. Whether you're heading out for the first time or for the 50th, Academy Sports and Outdoors has everything you need to gear up for the field and do it for less. Find the ammo, shotguns, and rifles that fit your hunting style. Grab game cameras and camo to ensure you're fully prepared, all from the brands you trust, all in one place. Text HUNT24, that's HUNT24, to 22369, again 22369, to take $20 off your $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. And if you need a hunting license, pick it up in store while you're shopping. It's just one more way Academy Sports and Outdoors makes hunting season easier.
Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
So in terms of culinary history, the the word comes from the French crepin, which means pig's caul. The Navajo people of southwestern United States have wrapped sheep intestines. Navajo are famous for mutton and sheep farming in certain areas, and they wrap sheep intestines around the strips of caul fat to make a dish called aki, I think it's pronounced. And any dish that includes fat and intestines, for me, I'm all over it. It's always my favorite thing. I like a little gamey, little funky flavors. It's just so good. French cuisine, caul fat is often used in something called crepinette, which is a small sausage-like patty wrapped in caul fat before cooking. Kind of think of like a elongated meatball or something wrapped in caul fat. It's also used for wrapping pâtés and terrines, as the caul fat holds the shape and keeps the contents moist without any need for additional casings. So what's happening is the caul fat's kind of like cooking and basting whatever it's wrapped around, and it's also tightening at the same time and holding the shape. So it works as a really good something to wrap things with. So any sort of like burgers or like lean burgers or meatballs or different kind of meat preparations like that, it works great. You can almost think of it as like a sausage casing that's edible. Italian cooking, caul fat is frequently used in dishes like fettuccine, which are small meat bundles, polpette, which are meatballs. Like I said, it's perfect for the stuff like that. The caul fat usually imparts a subtle richness and holds the meat together during cooking. And it's a key ingredient in a lot of traditional Italian recipes. You don't see that over here as much, but when you go to Italy, there's a lot more stuff using it. The whole animal gets used a lot more in Europe. Middle Eastern cuisine, caul fat is commonly used in case spiced minced meats, so you're probably seeing a bit of a pattern here. Like lamb or beef, creating small parcels. Usually those are grilled. That's often, they can do like a kibbeh or different things like that. These dishes benefit from the caul fat's ability to hold moisture and flavor, just like the other ones. And you can probably see the same kind of thing all around the world. Just this caul fat being used to encase like lean meats. When you're cooking with it at home, you want to use it pretty sparingly because a little caul fat goes a long way. It's visceral fat, so it adds a lot of richness. It adds a little bit of offal, gamey kind of flavor, which is really nice, but you don't want too much of that flavor. Because it adds all that extra fat and richness and kind of bastes the meat that it's wrapped around, you want to use it for leaner cuts, delicate ingredients that can benefit from a little extra fat and moisture. You want to avoid high heat because caul fat is pretty delicate. It's delicate and lacy. Like when you pull it out of the animal, you can barely see it. It's like very nearly transparent, very, very translucent. Because it's so delicate, it melts very quickly. So you don't want to like melt it right off your thing right away. So use it at slower, lower heats, and just let that render. Like the beauty of caul fat is that it slowly renders. So cooking methods like baking, roasting, or gentle pan frying are always the best way to go.
Yeah, I think too you can use it for like burgers and stuff too. I think you're maybe missing out a little bit on the full like rendering process because you're going to be heating it so quickly. It's not going to really render. It's just gonna cook off. But it's still one of those things.
And if you're cooking in a pan, if it does render too quickly, you're just then cooking it in the fat still. Yeah. Like it's not going anywhere, right? So that's not such a horrible thing.
I was looking up this Aki, the Navajo thing. Mm-hmm. It is pretty cool. It literally looks exactly as it sounds. It's basically like wound up, like picture like a roll. If you took we'll say an 8x10 inch piece of caul fat and you rolled it into like a tube, and then you took the intestine and you twisted it around the outside of it, like a coiled rope is how I would describe it. And then from there it's like grilled until it's like charred on the outside, and it seems pretty awesome. Very popular.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to add this one to the list of things to try.
Yeah. It's that's really reminds me. There's a Turkish dish called I think it's called like kokoreç or kokorek. I don't know how to pronounce Turkish words, but it's this, like kind of offal wrapped in intestines and grilled in a similar way. It sounds
Interesting.
I had it there. It was really good. You know, I was in the Southwest in the spring on a trip, and I was in Navajo country, and I was looking desperately for stuff like that, for like barbecued mutton and some of the special dishes there, and I couldn't find any. I was super disappointed. I found a couple Navajo women doing barbecue on the side of the road, so we got some like traditional barbecue, but no traditional like Navajo mutton stuff.
Oh man!
So next time I go down, I'm going to look it up before I go and make sure I find it, because I was really looking forward to trying something like that.
Yeah, this is the place. Where is it? Sweet Meat Incorporated.
Okay.
In Waterflow, New Mexico. Apparently is where recommended. All right. The other thing I was going to say, so our little special project that we were working on too, I did like a Cypriot Sheftalia, which is essentially like the Middle Eastern version, kind of like what you were talking about, Mediterranean, I guess, if you want to categorize it, depending on where you label Cyprus to be. So it was great. I made it phenomenal. You cook it up, and it just like it's this little pocket of like yumminess with the caul fat. But all right, now shifting gears once again, we're staying on good time here. The Trotters. So I say this. I'll throw this out there, that the Trotters are probably the least consumed part of deer in North America. Period. I think that you get people people that eat heart, people that eat liver, people eat kidneys, people eat testes, people eat tongue. I can't think of any other cuts, but I think the trotter is definitely probably one of the most discarded like pieces, I would say. And we're going to hope to change your mind about this. So it's known as the trotter or the hoof. The cut is dense, and it's full of gelatin-rich connective tissue. Also, deer trotters, as you would logically understand, are smaller than those of domestic animals, but contain a similar structure, bones, tendons, and collagen. It's just a little different, cervids versus hoofed animals versus all the other things. So take that into consideration. It's rich in flavor and texture when slow cooked, and it releases gelatin that thickens sauces and adds depths to broths. The skin, when intact, renders down to create a sticky, rich texture, making it highly valued in rustic cooking. That's an interesting line that I put in there, because you wouldn't really think of keeping the skin on it. I think it's mainly focused on like the silver skin around it, not necessarily the skin with fur on it, because you do in order to get it. I've done it before.
If you're hunting wild pig,
oh yeah,
if you're doing wild pig, you could definitely do the skin.
Yeah.
If you're willing to take the time to scald it and shave the hair,
scald it or torch it or do whatever, which is not great. But yeah, you could do that. But I would say like most of your cervids and most other big game animals, you're probably going to skin it completely off in order to get everything off there. So how to remove the cut. So you want to ensure that the hoof is thoroughly cleaned, and that means like getting in there with a brush and like brushing off the hooves themselves, like inside the toes, in wherever. Clean it up as much as you can before you start. This will keep it from getting dirty, the meat dirty. Use a sharp knife or bone saw to separate it at the joint. It's pretty easy to separate it basically at the base of the shank. There's a joint there. You can kind of separate it away from the shank itself. It's a pretty good spot. Or if you want, just use a bone saw, cut it off. Just know what happens when you do that. And then, so this says, I typically just skin it. The times that I've done it, I've just taken it all the way down, just the skin all the way down to the basically where the hooves themselves are. And then from there, you can scald it or boil it to kind of like pull those off. You can cut them off. They're kind of like, once you start cutting them, this is going to get a little, but it would be equivalent to like shaving away a fingernail. If you could picture like the texture of passing a knife through that. If you've ever cut your finger in your fingernail, as I have, you know that feeling.
Yeah, you know that feeling. Well, I can picture it perfectly right now.
Yeah.
I find for pigs too, if you're doing wild pig, you can often like after you dip them in hot water, you can pull them off with pliers. It didn't work so well with deer, but deer for my deer trotters, I ended up cutting everything off, kind of peeling it. But the pigs, you can just kind of take a pair of pliers, grasp it, and just yank them right off, which is a little easier.
Yeah, and I think, a little difference there in the two animals. I mean, I don't even know. I'm thinking about like elk or something like that. May be a bit of a chore to get those off.
Yeah, but if you just take a little time and do it, you can get them off. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, but also like a elk trotter would be pretty big. So.
Yeah. One more thing too, if you have a like a heavy cleaver, heavy knife, or even a meat saw, I often just zip the feet in half as well, lengthwise.
Oh, yeah.
Especially larger feet, like pig feet, or if you had bison or something like that, you can just zip them right in half, and that just kind of exposes all that awesome collagen and all that stuff in it. So if you have something like that handy, and I think like a pig foot, if it's not a huge one, you could probably just do it with a heavy knife or a cleaver. But that really kind of opens all up. It's just really nice. So I'll do that if I can. In terms of culinary history, when we talk about trotters, it's referring obviously to the gait of the animal, like taking a horse for a trot kind of thing. It symbolizes the use of the feet or the hooves. Trotters are usually traditionally used to describe mostly pigs, but they've come to just describe everything now. There's not a lot of terminology in the hunting world because hunters generally don't keep the feet. So maybe we need to help change that because it's worth it. It might not be worth keeping all the feet, but it's definitely worth keeping some feet. The feet have traditionally been valued for their collagen content, like we were saying, which adds just luxurious texture to soups and stews and sauces and whatever else. There's so much collagen packed in these feet that often people will just throw a foot of something, whether it's a chicken foot or a duck foot or a pig foot, into a soup just to, make it nice and luxurious. It's like heavily used in European and Asian peasant cooking, where every part of the animal gets utilized. There's a couple famous dishes like pied de cochon in France, which just means pig's feet. And actually, one of my favorite restaurants in the whole world is in Montreal. I think I've talked about it on the show before, maybe with Jesse Griffiths. But it's called pied de cochon, and one of their main dishes is like a stuffed, like a deboned and stuffed pig foot. It's just insane. So if anyone ever gets a chance to go to Marthe Picard's pied de cochon in Montreal, definitely do it. You won't be disappointed. In Korea, they will often braise the pig trotters. It's called something called jim, if I'm definitely pronouncing that incorrectly.
I think the jim, maybe the roasting. I found another dish that's called jok ball.
Oh, okay.
Ball. That's, I think.
So sorry. Yeah. Sorry to anyone who's Korean listening to this, butchering the language. But yeah, they it's definitely used in a lot of Asian cooking, a lot of like beautiful Chinese dishes where it's just like these braised kind of jellied pig's feet. You'll find some lamb trotter dishes in some parts of the Middle East and a little bit about the Mediterranean, but it's pretty hard to find stuff like that. It's just not a lot of meat on them, so they're more often used to enhance cooking, like a spice or something, rather than as a major ingredient. I'd say pig's feet probably had the most meat on them. And they have this really beautiful kind of gelatinous quality that's really nice. Deer trotters would have been used in the past a lot, not as common today, but they'd be probably used in broths and stews and sauces. In order to cook them, you're going to want to blanch the trotters in boiling water briefly to clean and remove any impurities, especially if you're not quite sure of your cleaning job on them. Then you can transfer them to a pot with aromatic vegetables, herbs, cover it with liquid and simmer it for several hours. You want that that collagen. They're full of collagen. You want that to break down slowly into gelatin, and that takes long simmering. Once they're nice and soft, you can remove the trotters, strain the stock, and use that for a soup or sauce. If you have another recipe for a soup or something that you're like, even a chicken soup or something that you're like simmering all day, you can just throw a trotter in there to help it out. It doesn't have to be like a trotter stock. You can just use it to enhance whatever you're cooking. Alternatively, you could braise trotters in wine or broth until tender for melt in your mouth texture. You can just chew on them. You can use it for gravies or stews. There's a lot of, there's a cool French recipe I'll talk about, a Quebecois recipe that's found up here I'll talk about later. That's really neat. But yeah, it's more, think of it more as an ingredient than the base of whatever you're making.
Also too, you made me think about things in Canada, and moose came to mind. Shout out to Bob. Bob is a listener of the podcast, a pig camp attendee as well, and he heard us talking about moose noses and has sourced 2 moose noses for
you're the man, Bob. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're the man. We're super excited. He also said that he fears now that he's known as the nose guy by the outfitters he was with, which is, whatever. We all get cool nicknames. Bob the nose guy. Thanks, Bob.
Boat Trader is America's largest boating marketplace with over 100,000 boats to choose from. We offer simple, comprehensive solutions for those looking to sell, find, and finance new or used boats. Visit BoatTrader.com to get started.
At Midway USA, we know the AR-15 is one of the most popular rifles in modern American history. Known for its modularity and widespread use, it's often considered essential to any gun collection. The essential things you need to run an AR-15 are usually always in stock during shortages, things like magazines and 5.56 ammo. Whether you're looking to buy a new AR-15 or buy parts for your modern sporting rifle, log on, and for just about everything for the outdoors, shop MidwayUSA.com.
All right. On that bit of random thought in my mind, let's switch over to talk to probably the most interesting point of this conversation, the testicles, or the testes, which we will refer to them from here on out. So the testes are also known as fries, prairie oysters, or Rocky Mountain oysters, and they're soft, oval-shaped organs with a delicate, tender texture. So I'll just lay it out there. I'm a huge fan of them. I grew up eating Rocky Mountain oysters. They're pretty tasty. The texture, and depending on the batter, is if you batter and fry them, is to me akin to fried shrimp.
That's a good way to put it.
And even if you dip it in cocktail sauce and eat it like that too, it's very much that. So they have a creamy, mild flavor, similar to shrimp, which also absorb the surrounding seasonings and flavors during cooking. So they're pretty absorbent, like tofu, just different. Let's get to the bit that's gonna,
give everyone send shivers across the nation.
Yeah. So how to remove them from the animal? So using a sharp knife, first off, you're gonna locate where they are. So we didn't cover that, where they are on the animal. They're obviously on the bottom part of the animal towards the rear. Look between the legs on a male animal and you will find them. Pigs are different. Pigs, they're on the back, up towards the top. Not the top, not above the anus, but below it. But they're a little different to access than on a deer, which they're down below. And yeah, that's kind of like that on any of the different animals. So using a sharp knife, I don't know bear if they're outside or inside on bear.
I'm not actually sure.
Yeah,
I've only ever butchered skin bears, so I've never actually been able to do the skin cutting on one before.
I'm trying to remember when I skinned a bear where I don't remember. Anyway, if anybody remembers or recalls, write us in, let us know. It's a good point of conversation. Good barroom banter, as they say. So use a sharp knife once you've located, and you're going to make a small incision on the scrotum's outer skin, just enough to expose the testicles. Avoid cutting too deeply to prevent damage to the testicles themselves. And then once the scrotum is open, you're going to locate and pull each testicle out. I learned to do this in high school, by the way. I was a member of FFA, Future Farmers of America, and we learned to castrate pigs, like as part of our classwork. So you reach in there after you've made the slit, and you pull it out, and there'll be like almost a little string attached. It's exactly what you think it is, and you're going to cut that, and then you'll have your testicle. Once you've sort of like separated it out, you don't want to like poke it. There's like a thin membrane that's kind of around it that you'll kind of remove later on in the process after you've kind of cleaned it, but you're gonna run them underwater to clean off any fluids or anything that may be residual blood or whatever that's done there. But and then from there you can slice them, you can leave them whole, you can have them depending on the recipe. I don't know, Adam, any tips for removing the testes? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I wouldn't say there's a vast difference between animals. I don't know if everyone got my little pun there. Yeah, it's funny. I just did on the weekend actually. I was butchering some lambs for a friend, and we were pulling the testes out. And lambs just have ridiculously large ones compared to the body of the lamb.
Yeah.
Compared to other animals. I think I sent you the picture of the scrotum mitt that came off after, but yeah, it's pretty large.
Which I always found interesting. So like, growing up, like you would manually cut the pigs because they don't hang, but lamb and other animals you would band with a sharp or a really tight rubber band, and essentially it would just apply so much pressure that it would just fall off. It's like when we were kids and our parents told us not to use the rubber bands to cut off circulation around.
Yeah.
Well, if you left the rubber band on there long enough, well, we have bones on our fingers, obviously, so they would probably not work through that. But if it was just like, if you put it on your ear, maybe your ear might fall off after a while. But yeah, I remember that.
We don't recommend doing that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't put in... But yeah, don't use rubber bands. Also, too, if the animal's already dead, it won't work either. Yeah, you're better off just to cut it. Do you want to talk about culinary history a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. There's not much of a skill needed to take them out. You know where they are. You know how they work probably, and they just kind of slice open and pop them out. In terms of culinary history, they're known as a delicacy across many cultures, and even in North America, which is interesting to me because North America, for the most part, all the things we've been talking about rarely has had any sort of thing to do with any of the organs. Usually the North Americans are the ones that eschew it, and in this case, they actually really like it, which is very interesting to me.
We should say modern North Americans.
Modern North America, yeah. Because in the past, they would have eaten anything, but not across the entirety of North America, because most people would faint at the thought of eating it all the same. But in the West, they're called Rocky Mountain oysters down south. Do you guys say prairie oysters too? That's all I've ever heard of them in Canada was prairie
I don't know.
Oysters.
Typically Rocky Mountain oysters are what they're called. It's funny because I think when people refer to like game animals and that, you'll hear them called prairie oysters, but Rocky Mountain oysters tend to refer to cattle.
The beef. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it's a big thing in Denver and Colorado.
Yeah,
up in Wyoming. I think the cattle livestock industry, the beef itself, created that. Because it's like I was talking about cutting. So growing up, cutting calves, cutting pigs, all that. It became a product that was available that would have been tossed away otherwise. So largely I would think cowboys or cowboy cooks or whoever who is trying to get the most out of an animal or a good meal would prepare them.
Yeah. And you generally castrate them all at once or over the space of a week. So you'd have a lot of these coming about at one time without all the other meat because the animals are still on the hoof. So usually when you butcher, you end up with a lot of stuff. But in this case, you just end up with a big big old bag of testes just for the week. So you'd have to come up with ways to deal with them. So there's celebrating dishes such as fried oysters in quotations. And the reason they're called prairie oysters or Rocky Mountain oysters is they kind of resemble a fried oyster to a degree if you kind of slice them. Sometimes they're put on skewers and grilled. They have a unique but very mild taste, a high protein content. If you've ever had sweetbreads at a restaurant, I find them very similar to sweetbreads. Like Justin said, kind of like shrimp, a little snappy, little like, but just generally very mild. It's not an offensive flavor, and it wouldn't scare off people if you didn't know what it was.
I think people, the biggest factor is like just getting over eating it themselves. Like it's a mental game.
Yeah,
like once you consume it, it's not like.
Yeah, like, oh, that wasn't bad.
Yeah. It's funny because we always end up going to like one specific restaurant in Wyoming when we go hunt in eastern Wyoming, and I always order a big old plate of Rocky Mountain oysters, and usually people will try like one or two, and then I'll like consume the most of it until I'm tired. Tired not of the fried testes, but really tired of the fried food, and just like I eat a lot of deep fried food, so you're just like, oh my god, there's so much oil and flour and batter. But no, I still think it's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've cooked them quite a few times, and I made I did a trio of and I used water buffalo testicles because they were just available to me from a water buffalo farm nearby, and I think I made pasta bolognese, so I chopped them up and used that. McNuggets. Which I kind of deep fried like in a chicken nugget kind of style, and then I think I did a butter braised balls. So I braised them in butter, and I did a little tasting trio of 3. So that was a fun little meal.
Oh, that's great.
So that you can they're great fried, but you can do a lot more with them. And they're used most popularly. They're sliced, breaded, and deep fried until they're nice golden brown and crispy.
You've done them at Pig Camp too as well.
Yeah, I've done them. I think I butter braised those ones as well.
Yeah.
And then kind of did a sear on them. I definitely want to try smoking them. I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, try some different things. Maybe stir fry would be good too. They could be pan-seared or grilled, or you can marinate them before cooking. They're just like an inoffensive little piece of tender meat, basically.
Here you go.
So take it where you will.
Here's a good one. There's a Hungarian stew made with rooster testicles called Kakashire porkolt. Probably not saying that right at all. But it's often served with flour dumplings, egg, barley, boiled potatoes. That's
Sounds
cool.
pretty hearty.
Yeah, I have to look at that. That might be a good one to do with some game animals. All right. Well,
yeah, it'd be interesting.
I think we covered. So yeah, let's switch over to recipes, because we've kind of like discussed the big 3 that we were going to discuss today.
Yeah.
Or no, big 3. I can't count. No, 4. I can't count. All right. Yeah, you want to lead off with your curried steak and kidney pie?
Sure. So this is on the Intrepid Eater website. If you want to cook it yourself, I always kind of thought that like. Steak and kidney pie is such a British kind of traditional British treat, but so is like kind of the curry, the British style curry. So I thought, why not combine the two? And it turned out really, really, really good. I was very, very happy with this recipe. So what I did, I just soaked some kidneys in milk overnight to just reduce the flavor a little bit. Peeled the outer membranes off. Trimmed off everything inside and outside that's not dark pink kidney meat. So when you cut open a kidney, there's like kind of a white marbly spot. It's definitely edible, but you can take that out as well to reduce the flavor a little bit more. Toss the kidney, and I used venison steak. I think I used round steak. Toss them in flour, salt and pepper, curry spice, and some garam masala. Melted some butter in a cast iron pan. Fried over everything until it's nice and crispy. Not brown, and then I added onion, carrot, garlic, ginger, and chilies. Cooked it up a little bit. Added some stock and basically simmered it for an hour so everything's just like nice and tender. also during that time, the liquid reduces down to a thick gravy. So I want that for the interior of a pie. Rolled out some pastry dough and just cover the cast iron pan. So I don't have a bottom to this pie. It's just the top. So cover the cast iron pan that I cooked all this in. Trim around, crimp the edges, make a little fun design on top. Brush it with a little bit of beaten egg, and then put it in the oven for 30 minutes. And just so delicious. I started with some mango chutney and a little bit of wild greens, and yeah, was that ever good? I definitely recommend someone trying that out with their kidneys.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds really good. Let's see. I'm going to talk here about this ram caul fat wrapped venison burgers. So this is an old recipe by Mr. Dan Renna on our website from back in 2020. It's got a cool little video if you want to watch it. Just a quick, I don't know how many minutes it is, but so you're going to take basically your venison burger, form it into patties, and you're just going to wrap your burgers in it. Preheat your cast iron pan and allow it to come to temp, and then you're going to sear them off briefly, and then you're going to cook it to an internal temp. So I would say if you're using bear, cougar, boar, anything like that, you want to make sure you do 165. But if you're just using some of your regular deer or any other servers like that, you can get a good medium rare temp in there, and you should be fine. You can also, if you don't want to, what I tend to like to do, even sometimes with regular burgers, you sear one side in the pan, flip it, and then put it in the oven that you've preheated to 350 or so, and that'll let it get an even cook and actually control a little better. I think it would work really well for the caul fat as well, as it kind of melts in there. But it's a great way to enjoy a good burger wrapped in caul fat. Add some extra moisture to it and hold in some of those juices and stuff. You want to season that before you actually seal it in the caul fat. You want the seasoning on the inside, not the outside. So, do you want to talk about your dish?
Yeah.
Quebecois
really
dish.
Cool dish. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I live part-time in Quebec. I'm not Quebecois myself, but I love the food. I talked about pied de cochon before. I love the food scene here and everything. And there's this very cool dish I made before called ragout de pâte de cochon, or sometimes it's known as a meatball or pig's feet and meatball ragout. And it's really old school Quebec dish. So the Quebecois kind of pioneer era, it was lots of rich, thick, heavy pea soup with ham hocks and these big stews, often featuring maple syrup and different ingredients from up here. And it was really hearty food because it was so cold and it was such hard work for all these people. So basically what this dish is, it's a really traditional, old school Quebecois recipe. You take about 3 or 4 pig's feet, onions, celery, carrots, and then you have cloves and cinnamon, which is kind of the traditional Quebecois. If you're finding a creton or different ingredients, you'll often find this wintry spices that are often used more in baking in the savory foods. And then you're gonna get some pork meatballs. You're gonna make them, and Dijon mustard and maple syrup. And in the large part, you're gonna cover the pig's feet with water, bring to boil, and simmer for 2 to 3 minutes to blanch them. Drain and discard that water, and that just kind of cleans all the impurities out. Then you can place the meatballs, the pig's feet, and all the vegetables and spices back into the pot, fully immersed, and you're going to simmer that gently for about 3 hours until the meat starts falling off the bone. You can remove the pig's feet from the broth. Some people leave them whole in the stew if you want to get all tactile, or you can take them and remove all the meat and put it back. The meat, once you take it off, it's going to have a lot of gelatinous parts. So you can kind of either remove those or add them depending on who's eating the dish and what people are, their threshold for gnarly bits. You're going to add some... you're gonna toast some flour, whisk into the broth to thicken, and add a little maple syrup as well as some salt and pepper, and it's just gonna thicken down to this like rich, thick brown stew full of meatballs, full of shredded pork foot meat. And you generally serve that with potatoes. So it's like a super cool, old school Quebecois dish that it's worth checking out.
I'm going to talk a little about, Alan Burgo over at his website, The Forger Chef, has a ton of great resources that we're going to talk about here in just a second. He's got a pretty detailed how to cook venison trotters, and he does it several ways, not only just the cleaning, but even down to discussing what he called the hoof oyster, which is a little bit of meat and collagen at the end underneath the hoof itself, and once you roast it, you can pull it off, and kind of get into that. The other thing, he's got a lot of broths, but he says in this that there's so much gelatin in the trotter that you can use it to set terrines with. So think of like head cheese or other things like that gelatin that you have in there. Head cheese is also a terrible name for it. We've discussed that before. But I think my favorite recipe that he has...
Foot cheese instead. That sounds
better.
Foot
cheese, yeah. Foot cheese.
Yeah.
I think that's already a thing. He has a recipe that he got from some of his Lakota friends, and it's a dried venison soup with timp sila bapap wohanpi, which is essentially a rich stew made from all dried ingredients that uses hominy, prairie turnips. He's got 8 cups of venison trotter bone broth, 2 ounces of the cooked venison trotter meat, 4 ounces of dried venison, 1.5 ounce of dried squash, a half an ounce of dried onions, 4 ounces of dried hominy, and 3 ounces of dried tempsilia, which I think are like prairie turnips. But he essentially put that in there and rehydrated it all in a series of steps. But that looks like a really cool dish. Shows too like the versatility of having all those dried goods to be able to use it, but then also utilizing the richness from the trotter broth to bring flavor out of a lot of other very flavorful things. So super cool. All right. I kind of mentioned the trotter terrine already, so I think we're good with that. You want to talk about the smoked Rocky Mountain oysters?
Sure. So this is kind of what I want to do next with the next testicles I get. This is also an Alan Burgo recipe, which can be found on the Forger Chef, forgerchef.com. So basically all you're doing, you're taking some testicles. Before you take the testicles, you're going to take some water, some salt, pink curing salt, pickling spice, brown sugar, and bay leaves, and create a brine. So you're just going to heat the water, let everything kind of chill in there, chill the brine, and then remove the testicles from their outer sheath, which we talked about. You can peel them and put them into the brine for about 4 days. You're then going to cook them in hot water for about 10 minutes, which can help remove the last membrane if you'd like. If you cook them for too long, apparently they can kind of burst open a little bit, which kind of ruins them. So, cook them super gently. Take that membrane off. Allow it to sit in the fridge, the testes in the fridge for a little while to develop like to kind of get tacky, so it can develop a pellicle, which is also like a name for like letting the smoke kind of stick to that skin. Put them into the smoker at about 225 degrees for about an hour and a half, or until the internal temperature is 145 to 150. Chill and covered to form that pellicle, and now they're ready to serve. So you just kind of slice them, serve them with crackers, pickles, mustard, cold cuts. Just sounds really delicious. From there, you could also go ahead and fry them. So you get like smoked and fried, which also sounds quite nice.
It makes you think, like I was looking at the texture and all that. It reminded me of like bologna.
Yeah, definitely.
Almost like a fried bologna sandwich from it. It'd be interesting.
Huh. I guess if you like cured and smoked it, it would come out a little bit like bologna.
Yeah.
Interesting. I bet bologna has a fair bologna has a fair amount of it in it anyways, probably. So.
Yeah, I was thinking you can make like a little pepperoni type deal, put them on your pizza, a little smoked testicle pizza.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, you get a little crispy from the wood-fired oven. Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, I think we went thoroughly. I'm really proud of our last Cooking by Cut episode. We covered some great things here. You got last thoughts, real quick?
No, I think after doing all this, just the general thing after going through the entire animal is just try something new. Like there's more than just steaks and ground and roast, and steaks and ground and roast is good, but if you're bringing lots of animals, try some new stuff. Listen to the podcast, listen to our series, and find something that you really like. And I'm sure if you try one of the things that we talked about, you'll find something you absolutely love. You'll never go back. So yeah, just try something new. See if you like it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like kind of think holistically about it. And, we do this in our pig camp a lot and encourage people to look at recipes and stuff before they start butchering animals so they can think through what cuts they want. I think that's really helpful. And then also, too, if you're a person who's trying to like stretch the entirety of the animal for as many meals as you can, using all these different cuts in different manners is going to stretch it out. Like, yeah, you can throw a roast in a crock pot and let it cook overnight and it's great. But also, too, like, get it in the liver, get it in the heart, get it in that. If you don't like it, dehydrate the liver for dog snacks or, whatever. Like, there's so many different uses that can go beyond that. And you end up going, I hear people talk about, I got like 40, 50 pounds of meat out of that. Well, you know how much a liver weighs, you know how much a heart weighs, you know how much all these things, like those are meals that you're just tacking on and adding in. And I think really just becoming more comfortable and learning how to use each part. And I think at the end of the day, that's it, is just like learning to be comfortable with using different parts of the animals. Like making it a standard to be like, oh yeah, we cook the heart. Oh yeah, we cook the liver. Oh yeah, we've got, testes that we're going to prepare. Like all these different things that people generally don't consider. Like if you just get past sort of the like, I don't know, uneasy, uncomfortableness about it, like it's more approachable. We've laid out some great techniques on the way to do it. You can dive more into your own research, try flavor combinations. And what, at the end of the day, if you mess it up, and you throw it in the trash, you're going to throw it in the trash anyway. So what's an extra step of just trying it out? I'll say as far as the series as a whole, it's probably like the most holistic resource for butchering wild game out there. And I'll stand by that. We put together a ton of content. I mean, you think, I don't know how many episodes we've done. Probably...
Yeah, I have no idea though.
50 or so episodes, an hour long, so you're talking about 50, 60 hours, almost a week's worth of content if you listen to them. Or no, 2 days. I can't count that well. 2 days worth of 3 days, 4 days worth of content, whatever. If you listen to it like endlessly while you sleep and while you're awake, which I don't recommend. But, it's good stuff. Go back, use it as a resource, share it, draw on it, learn from it, critique it, push us to be better, push us to give you more information. We're happy for that as well. And I'll say this, thanks everybody for listening. This episode's been great. We'll put all these show notes online. Head over to social media. Make sure you're following Harvesting Nature, Trepid Eater, and then whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Punch that 5-star button. Tell us we're doing wrong, or, tell us how much you love testes. Thanks, everybody. Good night.